Oh my God. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. It's 2:19 p.m. So I apologize for the delay there, but we made a switch. We're going YouTube only from
Right on
now on.
time,
Just
right
like
on
the old days.
time.
Right on, yeah, right on time. And it's October 24th, so it's not our last show before Halloween. But anyway, happy spooky season. AJ is here, producer sir. How are you doing? Do you have a Halloween costume for this year or no?
No, I never do.
No. I am maybe going to be going to Moores and renting a suit for one day just to be backwards man from Freddy Got Fingered back in 2001, one of my favorite movies ever made, because that's one of my favorite gags in the whole world. So, in any case, happy spooky season. Do you have a favorite spooky movie before we get into the show while people are filing in?
No, not really.
Not really.
I guess
Oh, wow.
I guess the closest thing that I could think of is maybe The Nightmare Before Christmas.
That is a good one. That is a good one. I mean, I'm a Beetlejuice fan. I like
Okay.
that. That's a good one. But yes, I mean, I'm also not a big spooky season guy. I'm not super into it. I'll get really into Christmas, but spooky season, not quite.
So there's not going to be any chat window today just because of certain things.
Yeah,
that
we've
have
had some weird things going on. So if you want to follow along with the chat, use YouTube's chat feature. So
sorry,
yeah, we're
everybody.
getting used to a new workflow. Anywho, so today what we're going to do is we're going to chat about the NHL Central Scouting list, of course, because that dropped as well. Jason Bukala put out a list on Sportsnet, so that's also something that has been put into the database, so we can take a look at that. Yeah, we're also going to have a very special guest later on in the show to share a special story of his interaction with a very, very wonderful NHL hockey player.
I thought
not NHL hockey player is redundant.
I
yes,
thought we were gonna keep that a surprise, and I was just gonna unleash it. But
oh well,
you know what?
I
didn't say that, so it's my bad. But I think it's because of all the chaos that's been unfurling.
It's been a chaotic week in my household, at least. So but I'm feeling good today. I know, and here's why. This is for all my music fans. This came in the mail yesterday. Gordy Greep's new album, first album actually. If you know who Gordy Greep is, that's a big one.
I do not, so I can't.
Well, you might like it because it's kind of whack. But anyway, that's the good news. That's the good news in the house right now. But any case, yeah. So there's a couple of players as well that I've had a look at over the last week that I kind of want to go over in detail. But
your mic, my good friend.
What about it?
There we go. It's better now.
There we go. I gotta get new cables. Don't buy cables off Amazon, by the way.
Buy them off Temu.
Yeah. Can I say something about that? Can I?
You're allowed.
I got a thing. I got a bone to pick now. I use TikTok pretty often. I used to be a hater of TikTok. Now I'm lost to it. They got to do something here. They got to make something illegal. Temu is one of the companies that does this. And I know there are others, but they'll put a picture that is a link to their website up on TikTok. And it makes it look like a post from some person, but then they put little dots at the bottom where if it were a slideshow, you could swipe through it like it were a slideshow, but there are no other pictures. But when you swipe, it treats it as a click or you're following a link, and it takes you away from the app and goes to the website. So they're tricking you into thinking that a slideshow is a slideshow, but it's not. It's a ad that takes you off the app to some site that you don't care about, and one of them is Temu, and I hate it. It makes me never ever.
No. Temu, please sponsor us. Please sponsor us.
No.
What do you mean? You won't take Temu money? I'll take
AliExpress. I'll take AliExpress money. I'll take CCP propaganda money. I'll take whatever. I won't take Temu.
You'll take the Chinese government money over Temu.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't have to like the Chinese government.
But you don't have to like Temu either. What?
No, I'm just against the idea. I don't like it. Nope.
So on Will's ban list of sponsorships.
Yeah, it's on my ban list. Yeah, the worst.
The two are Temu and gambling sites. That is
correct.
That is Will's ban.
No gambling sites. Well, no, you know what though? No, it's not necessarily that gambling sites are on my blacklist. It's how they want you to advertise that's on my blacklist and how you make money. I don't know. I don't really care. But I was approached by a gambling site last year to do a sponsorship thing, kind of like how we have Fanatics on board, where there's like an affiliate link and whatever. But their affiliate link was a sign-up bonus once you put in a few $100s, or I take a percentage of the money you lose.
Exposing the system.
So when you see people who are posting like links and stuff to sign-up bonuses or whatever for sports betting, there's a chance that they're profiting when you lose. I don't like that. I'm gonna say no to that every day. I don't know if every site does this. This is just what the one site offered to me, and I said no. And they kept bugging me about it, and I kept saying no. So there's that.
Persistence.
No. So not happening on that. But if they wanted to cut me a check for $100,000 to be like, here's how money you can build your business with, and we want to be presenting sponsors, then sure, I'll take your money all day. But I'm not taking money of people who watch me when they lose sports gambling. So especially when that gives me an incentive to get into sports betting and maybe profit when you lose, like that automatically is a no-go zone. That's a sketchy area. I don't like it. So no, not going to happen. Anyway,
did see that my mic was a little buzzy in the chat. So if you could let me know if it's better now, that would be great.
It is a little bit peaky.
Okay, well, fantastic.
A little bit, but that's okay.
Is this helping at all? Or
yes, that helps. I don't know if you can turn up volume elsewhere, but the mic, it's called gain staging.
Look, I'm a stupid person that's lucked into everything I've done in life. Okay, that is just
all right.
Just the truth.
That sounds much better to me. I don't know if the viewers. Okay. I don't know if the viewers are feeling that way. Anyway, We've seen a couple of questions though specific to you already in the chat. So while we're still letting people ramp in, how did you said about a job interview, and someone's asking about how the job interview went. I don't know. Someone here is aware of something.
Wait, how do people know I had a job interview? What?
I don't know. Or they think that you're talking about when the may or may not have happened with some WHL superstar.
No,
may or may not. It
literally says, how was the job interview?
I don't know.
Wow. How do you know so much about me?
Yeah, I don't know how that happened.
It went good. That is crazy. I would love to know how you know about my job interview.
I have no idea. Yeah, I have my sources. Okay. So we have a mole somewhere. All right. Well, good to know.
Yes. Do not worry. If I get to this job, it'll just mean more money for me, and I'll still be working here. So don't.
Yeah, and it means I actually have to get off my butt and do more stuff.
I'll have a good salary, maybe.
Yeah.
It's not.
Because you're not getting one from me. No, you're not getting one from me at all.
It's not Will's fault, but I don't care either way.
Okay.
I'm just happy to be here.
Yes, as am I. Okay, so I guess we'll start with Central Scouting and some new stuff coming out, because that's the logical place to just start. Sure. And there's a lot to chew on and dig into. Let me just pull it up here. So the first thing I do want to say is that I would have to go back and check, but I am pretty sure that in previous years there were a lot more than 24 A-rated guys at this point in the season. And there's only 24 this year. So there's 24 players that they rate as first rounders, which I think is pretty interesting. Also, to Font Terrari, I better beef up the Christmas bonus if I want to keep AJ.
No, I'm staying. Don't worry about it. I've even
By the way, for anyone listening to a podcast, I'm wearing a sweater that says beef on it. So that's the joke.
This has started off very cursed, and I think it's because of what has transpired.
I'm having fun. I don't know about you. I'm having fun.
I'm having a blast. It's just It would feel a little
Yeah.
jarring if somebody just joined in and was seeing this for the
Yes.
first time, I think. So
Correct.
let's get right into what we actually want to do. So take it
Yeah.
away, Will. How
Yeah.
much do you hate this preliminary ranking?
Well, hate is a very strong word. I don't look. I've been watching this draft class every single day for the last 2 months or so in some capacity, and a lot of hockey has come into my eyeballs. I'm not a huge fan of this draft class, really. So that's why I said, like, I'm not surprised that there were only 24 guys rated as A ratings. I would say that of those 24, like 2 or 3 of them are guys that I probably wouldn't have there. Um, so, for example, I would say Brady Martin and Charlie Treadaway are guys that I would have lower, maybe B's, like second, third round guys. I would say second for Martin and third maybe for Treadaway. But other than that, I mean, I have all the other guys. Oh, Carbonneau I have outside the first round, but I also know that for Carbonneau in that case, like I've seen him a few times this year, and I've seen him be arguably one of the more skilled guys available. Like in terms of, if it was a one-on-one type game where it was, shootouts or beat a defenseman one-on-one, like he's really good. He's a really, really skilled player, really high-end offensive talent, but I want to see more of a well-rounded game out of him and a more distribution type game out of him outside of the offensive zone. But I also may have just seen a really, really bad couple of games earlier in the year. I like him. I like the skill level. I will always prefer a skill level to a player, but um, I hate to use the hockey term jam, but jam does matter in my books, and so that's why he's a bit lower than I would say. I would also actually there's another one. Kashawn Aitchison is one that I also don't have in an A category. I just think that Aitchison is the really classic example of a guy who kind of gets overvalued coming into this draft, but like in the sense of I can see why NHL teams value him, but I think that he'll get drafted too high, right? Like I like Aitchison for what he brings to the game. He's physical, he's mean, he's hard to beat physically. And he's a pretty mobile guy as well. Like there's a decent baseline to work with, but in terms of actually causing turnovers and actually, moving the puck up the ice consistently well and all of these things, I didn't see a whole lot of good evidence of that. But again, it's still very early in the season. He's not super low. Like he would be a B on my list, like a high B. He's in my top 40, I think, or top 45. He's just a guy who I see as, insert one of any number of really physical, intense NHL defensemen, think David Savard or, I know that's a name that's kind of like we poke fun at him, but they're the guys like that where it's like you can play them on your third, maybe second pair, tell them to sort of sit back and just play physical and play defensively and all of that stuff and maybe defer stuff to more higher pace, high skill guys when you have the puck, right? So he's a bit lower for me. I mean, there is a guy that on Central Scouting's list they had at a C that I have really high in the draft, in my top 10, which, I mean, maybe I'm insane.
Share. You must share then.
Well, that's Eric Nilsson, your garden center. So Eric Nilsson, if you don't know, at the Holinka tournament this year had 0 points through the first every game except the bronze medal game, and then he had 4 points to basically and a hat trick to basically carry Sweden to a bronze medal. And I felt like he was one of the best players on that Swedish team that tournament.
So
and now watching him,
what you're
yes,
saying is he sucks because he showed up in a bronze medal game and not a gold medal game, or didn't,
or
even
the
get
semifinal. Yeah, pretty much. But what I do know is I've seen him twice in track 2 games of him this year, and I've loved every minute I've seen of him. I'm not sure why he's ranked as a C, but I'm happy to let people do that. I just see a guy who's fast, explosive, skilled, selfless with the puck. He's a good distributor. He's a really interesting player who's a little bit slender. He's not small. He's listed at 6 feet, I think. or 5'11" or 6 feet, something like that. So it's not like he's 5'8". But it's just a guy who I think brings a lot to the game, a lot more than a lot of the other guys in the C tier that I have, even the guys I have ranked. Arvid Drott, I like as well. I like him more than a lot of people. I think he's gotten a lot faster this year. I think his skill level and the shot, the diversity in which he scores, I think is really good. Zeb Lindgren is another one who I have ranked in my first round, who was given a C. I think he played his first SHL game today. He's played some Champions League games with Skellefteå in Sweden. And I really like Zeb Lindgren. I mean, again, like it's the thing about this draft is that there's not a whole lot of wow talent for me. It's a lot of, all right, this guy's interesting. There could be something here. Let's take a look at more. And I don't know how much upside they have. But Zeb Lindgren is a guy who I think does have a lot of upside that hasn't really been fully fleshed out yet. Good shooter, really, really mobile skater. Moves the puck really, really well. And I've done 2 games of him. Both tracked games were Champions League games. So quality of competition, I mean, it's arguable. Would you rather play a DEL team, like a German top division team, or a Swedish junior team? Probably the German pro team. And he played really, really well. Like the numbers were really good for him. And there were a lot of really impressive moments out of him. It's just, there isn't a whole lot of that offensive push from him, but I feel like there could be. I think that's a guy that you draft and leave in Sweden for a few years and develop. And I think you could get a good defenseman, and he's playing SHL minutes today, or at least he was in the lineup.
Okay,
but yeah,
so
yes. What? Yes.
I'm going to ask I'm going to make one quick statement. So you
Yes.
let Stephen Ellis down, and you've not come through because didn't he threaten you to love Brady Martin? And now
Right.
you're going back on it.
Honestly, like with Brady Martin, I tracked a game of him after we spoke to Steven. I watched a couple more because I just did not see it with him on that level. But I will say though, like he's physical and there's some good skill. I felt like the best shift he had in the game I tracked was the first shift of the game, and the rest of the game, like the problem with Brady Martin is the foot speed to me. He's not a very quick guy. He doesn't have much escape speed. I feel like the skill level in stride outside the offensive zone is not a it's not enough for me to go, this guy is a top 20 guy, right? Even in this draft class. Like but with Brady Martin, I'm happy to keep checking in and have him higher, like, because it seems like I'm on an island where I'm going, I'm not totally sold on this guy in the NHL. Like I feel like in the OHL, he'll have no problem being more physically dominant and wrestling through pressure and getting scoring chances and just doing basic little things around the net. But when you get up to the speed and physicality of the NHL, I feel like that's a totally different story. I don't know. I mean, things can change, obviously. I'm not psyched about this draft class right now. But he's a guy that I just haven't seen what other people are seeing with, at least in terms of projecting him to the NHL. But I'm not going to lie. He has had some moments where I'm like, all right, I see why people like you. It's just a matter of projection for me.
Right. So would you compare this class kind of similarly to the 2021 class, but with better top end talent?
Yeah. I mean, I do think that I'm just looking at my 2021 list now. I do think that there's a bit of that. Yeah. Yeah, I would say so, honestly. Like I do, like in 2021, I remember there were quite a few players that I felt could be top 3 guys in that draft. Like, let me take a look here. Yeah, like I had Beniers, Eklund, Wallstead. Yeah, like a bunch of these guys. All I thought, what? Oh yeah, Fabian. Yeah, Fabian Liesel was in there. But all of these, like I'd say the top 7 names on my list that year: Beniers, Eklund, Wallstead, Liesel, Hughes, Johnson, Power, all pretty close at the time, I would say. In terms of potential value. This year, I do think that the top end is probably a slightly better group. Like when you look at guys like, oh man, I lost my list. So right now, my top 5, for example, is Hagens, Misa, Martone, Schaefer, Eklund. And I love all of these players, right? Like I would say I'd say all of my top 10 I really, really like. So that's Hagens, Misa, Martone, Schaefer, Eklund, Potter, Smith, Nilsson, and Mertka. All of those players are great. The next 10, maybe not 10, the next 7 I really like, and I will happily put them higher if I like more about the rest of the season. I mean, so I've got Hensler. I did a game of him yesterday and did not think he was particularly great, but I didn't think he was bad. Mooney, who is probably out forever. McQueen, who has really slowed down since scoring 4 goals in his first game, and I think he's hurt now. Cole Reshney, Carter Bear, Anton Frundell, Malcolm Spence, and Lyndon Lakovic are all guys that I've really enjoyed. I just think they're a step below that top 10 group, but I'm happy to change that down the road. But yeah, like so I would say relative to 2021, yeah, it's pretty comparable, I'd say. And then, yeah, like in 2021, my list passed, I'd say 18 with Matthew Coronado, like guys like Lambos, Lucius, Scott Morrow, Nikita Chibrikov, Stanislav Svazil, all those guys, Ville Koivunen, they were guys to me, like they were potential guys. And I feel like in the NHL class this year, that's probably similar, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel pretty confident in that now that you mention it. But yeah, I mean, just to go back to the Central Scouting list, someone mentioned Simon Wang, the OJHL defenseman. There's a lot of talk about him. And I mean, again, he was rated a B level guy, so that's second, third roundish. And I get it. I feel like, though, I mean, for me and my experience with the NHL draft, like past the third round ish is when, for me, I kind of start going, I don't know, just take who you like. I know who I like. I can see why other people would like other people. Whatever. Like, I'm not going to raise a fuss about it if I see this name pop up or this name pop up or this name pop up, or if someone suggests this guy, I don't really care. Fine, whatever. And Simon Wong is probably one of those guys where it's like, if it's the third round, I probably am not super excited to like jump in there and pick him, especially because, so if you don't know, Wong is a 6'8", I think, defenseman playing in the OJHL. He's pretty young for the draft class as well. And he's I've tracked a game of him and watched another one, and the skating is good. He's a good skater for a guy his size. I've seen him pull off some interesting skill moves in the offensive zone that a big boy usually you don't see. And so I get it. I see flashes of why you might want to make this guy a top 100 pick. But it's really rough around the edges for me, and especially at the OJHL level, right? Like, think of the OJHL players who have become successful NHLers. Like, there's not that many. And the OJHL is not a good level of play. Like, I don't know. It's a good college preparatory league for now. But in terms of NHL talent, it's a steep curve from there. So it's hard for me to gauge, but even at that level, it wasn't really like his teammates weren't helping him out or whatever. Like, there was part of that. And I do think he was one of the better players and better skaters on the ice, but the defending for a big guy, moving the puck and seeing the ice and the awareness of where guys were, it just wasn't quite there. So to me, he's just really, 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 really raw. And if you want to draft a guy like that and send him to college, he's going to Boston University, so he'll have a great program to play with for the next 4 or 5 years. I could see there being something there, right? Like, I'm not going to say it's impossible. But for me, like, it just seems like there's going to be guys that are available in the second, third round in that B range where there's less risk, right? Like, for example, just to throw an example out there, like if you want a big defenseman who can skate and play the game really well in a safe way, I'm really curious about Roman Bausov, a Russian defenseman who's 6'5" and pretty wiry, but playing, I mean, the NHL, I would say, is a higher level of play than the OJHL. And I've really liked him. I did a second game with him a little while back, and he was very, very solid. Maxim Agafonov, I know there's people talking about him. I think he was a B-rated guy as well. And I could see that as well. I talked to someone who was saying that an NHL person thinks that guy could be a first-round pick, Maxim Agafonov, and I would be quite surprised at that. But he is a good skater who moves the puck decently well. But I would say that there's less risk with a player like that than a guy like an OJHL 17-year-old 6'8" guy who can skate okay.
Okay, so
but I get it.
Yeah. So, general impressions. How do you feel about this list?
It's fine. Like it's fine. I mean, most of it I kind of agree with, and honestly, like it's funny. Over the years, I mean, everybody kind of memes on Central Scouting lists and everything, but over the years, the more hockey I actually watch and the more I reflect on, what it is that, like, once I start seeing what it is that people kind of see in a player and value, you can kind of tell. And so the NHL Central Scouting, I think, does put on their NHL cap and go, who are the guys that we can see playing in the NHL, right? So they kind of feed into the natural biases that are there, right? They're going to look at a guy like an Eric Nilsson and go, well, he's too thin, he's not the most physical guy, can get bumped off pucks, so he's not a first round pick, which fair enough, right? But I'm also, so I think about it like from that perspective and go, okay, that makes sense. I can at least understand where they're coming from nowadays, right? So it's fine. There are things I disagree with, but I'm also not going to like be too upset because this draft class as a whole hasn't been that exciting to me. There's a lot of interesting players. There's a lot of guys that I think could do certain subsets of the game decently well in the NHL, but in terms of like game-changing talents or guys who will be core parts of a roster, that list is relatively short, I would say.
Right, but it was shorter even in 2021. Like, how many guys even in 2021 would you really say are core pieces?
Yeah, not many. I mean, and one of them, Logan Stankoven, wasn't even a first-round pick. So, I would say,
too, right?
Yeah, Wyatt Johnson. I mean, so I would say my top 17 names I am very interested in, but generally that has been a list of 20 to 25 guys. And from there onwards, like, I see a lot of bit players, guys who can, I could see you doing this, I could see you doing this, I could see you doing this, or there's upside here, but a lot of risk. I mean, of course, for being me, there are guys that I have ranked that aren't even on Central Scouting lists, like Tinas Koblar, a Norwegian guy who I really, really like playing in Sweden. Nikita Poltavchuk, but he's not a very physical player, defenseman, but he's super, super slick and smart with the puck. I'm surprised, honestly, I don't want to drag on too long, but I'm honestly a little bit surprised that even though he's a little small, that Jamiro Reber isn't on the list at all. Because he's a half a point a game in the SHL. The first SHL game I saw him play, he tried a Michigan goal. And he's really fast, super young. He's barely eligible for last year's draft. So he's one of the youngest reentries this year. He's in the SHL, what looks like full-time, and he's been playing pretty well. So that's a guy that I have ranked now. I had him ranked last year as well. I saw a bit of Danilo Stinkov, but he was ranked, but he's a late round guy to them. But I think he's played really, really well in the Swiss second division this year. Regardless, overall, yeah, I think it's fine. There are guys that I have valued a little later, like I would say Bs relative to what they have as As. I have quite a few Cs rated as what they would call Bs, and a couple of Cs in my first round. But it's still early. Plenty can change, and we'll have to see.
So why don't we move on to another draft list then, Mr.
Sure.
Jason Bukala?
Yes. So Jason Bukala at Sportsnet also put out his list. And again, Jason Bukala is a guy who sometimes people can meme on, but when I read his stuff and read what he writes about these players and kind of what he rates them at, I see where he's coming from on a lot of this. Like, again, a bit of an anecdotal thing, but different people who evaluate talent have different preferences and different things that they look for. And I think sometimes there are people who may not know exactly what it is they're looking for, and it can be all over the place, or they're trying to follow external influences. But at least with Bukala, I can understand kind of what he's seeing. It's just how you weigh various factors that I think is where I differ from a lot of people. So it's not like he's misidentifying talent, right? So
It's
to
just
me,
branded, right? It's
it's
all
just,
about what your brand is. I have the
right.
speed brand. Will has the small brand. Yes.
Totally. If you're not under 6 feet tall, I'm not interested. Exactly. That's a joke, by the way. But anyway, I mean, in terms of his list, I mean, he's got Haggins at 1 and Misa at 2, just like I do. Schaefer at 3, Martone at 4. That's similar to me. Frundell is very interesting. He has Frundell at 5, and I get that. I totally get it. Frundell is, I think, still either fighting off an injury or just not up to playing speed that other guys are at this point in the season, because like he's looked okay in the junior level. I watched a game of him down there, and I tracked a game of him in Hockey Allsvenskan. In that game, he was not good. Like, he was not ready for that level of play, I don't think. Like, he was behind the play a lot, not making good passes when he had the puck, did not touch the puck a whole lot. He had a couple of nice physical moments in the offensive zone here and there, but he's a guy who I think has struggled to get into the groove of his game this season. So that'll be a very fascinating one to follow, because I thought he was quite a good player last year, and so far haven't seen that this year. He's got McQueen at 6, Ryabkin at 7, Eklund at 8. I really love Victor Eklund. I totally get that. Will Moore at 9 is interesting. I've seen Will Moore a lot. I've been watching a lot of the NTDP this year. I don't think it's a great team. Like, the CHL Prospect Series coming up, I feel like the CHL team is going to wipe the floor with the NTDP this year. But I mean, I would say Moore is probably the most, like, the slickest player out of all of the NTDP guys. Like, in terms of when he has the puck on his stick, he can get through layers of defense pretty decently well. He can drop a shoulder and power around guys, but it's not very often, right? Like with Will Moore, there's just it. Like, I watched a tracked game of him yesterday. I did not see a top 10 player there. I saw maybe a first round pick that you develop in college, and the smoothness of his skating and the skill level could turn into something. But yeah, I don't know. Hensler at 10, that's where I have him. Caleb Denoye, I tracked him this week and did not particularly like his game there. Again, like a top 15 pick for me, I think is high, but everyone seems to be doing that. So maybe I'm missing something, and we'll see. O'Brien at 12. I think O'Brien at 12 is risky. I mean, he's very, very smart. And I feel like he's a guy who will take time and probably ramp up over the course of the year. I'm not sure exactly why, but it just feels that way. But again, like, he's not a play. Like, I feel like if I'm drafting 12th overall, I've got to go, this is going to be a guy for us, like, for sure. And with Jake O'Brien, I see potential there. I see there's something there, especially as sort of a puck distributor. But it's not, again, it's similar to Will Moore. It's not, I don't see it much. But I see why. Malcolm Spence at 13. I think he's one of those guys that I think you can safely project to be a physical NHL winger. You know, maybe not anything amazing, but he plays that physical, intense style. Mertka, Reshny. I mean, Trethewey, I just haven't liked the projection on Trethewey so far this year. Yeah, like, his write-up on Trethewey is that he has the hockey sense and skating ability to be deployed in all situations, but he's not going to provide high-end offense or quarterback a power play at the NHL level, which to me is the problem, right? Like, I'm not drafting a guy like that who plays that way at the 16th overall pick, right? Because he's not wrong. I don't think Buchel is wrong. So to me, it's like, well, this is a defenseman who skates fine, moves the puck decently well, but he's not going to be an offensive guy in the NHL, and he's not going to quarterback a power play. So what am I doing drafting him in the first round, right? Like, I don't really like his defensive game that much. He's just a safe puck-moving guy, and I feel like in the NHL, unless you're a really physical, intense, mobile, big dude, that's a tough hill to climb to get in the NHL. Jackson Smith at 17 surprised me, but I know some people, there's no middle ground, right? Like, I know some people think the world of Jackson Smith and his potential, and some people do not. outside of that, I mean, nothing really that surprising for me in here. I'm not sure what Jan Hovan is doing in the first round outside of him being okay at the Holinka tournament. I've seen him in the Finnish Junior League, and I did not think he was particularly amazing. But maybe I'm missing something. I haven't tracked him or anything yet, but I mean, he's big, and that's really all I've taken away from him so far this season. And the rest, whatever. Like, we'll see how things go. I've got to check back in on Milton Yastrin, Victor Klingsell as well. I haven't seen him in a while. And like guys like Reese Hamilton and Emil Guite and all those guys, like I could see them being role players of some kind. I have them ranked lower, but you know, Reese Hamilton kind of strikes me as the Canadian Charlie Treadaway, where it's like smart puck mover, skates well enough, but doesn't have much jam. The offensive confidence and oomph isn't quite there. Maybe it is maybe it is as the year goes on, but yeah, it's not totally there right now. So he's a little lower for me, but in general, yeah, like it makes sense. I kind of see where he's coming from on a lot of this.
So
And
what would you say
such
his
is life.
brand is? Like, could you describe that for everybody here?
Well, I mean, size is a factor, I think. You know, you've got guys like Will Moore, who's 6'2" at number 9. Jake O'Brien, 6'2", number 12. You know, I think that's a big part of it. It's, you can see that there's a lot of these players on this list where it's like an NHL coach will play these guys, right?
Okay.
Like if you have a Brady Martin in your first round, I get why, because I could see an NHL coach saying, you are a decently skilled third line guy. I don't know if you're a center, but we're going to put you in front of the net or in the net front area to sort of make stuff happen. And you can play that role, right? Like you can do it.
Kashan
Aitchison, top 20
is what you're saying.
Decently, yeah, like
and size,
yeah,
safe, reliable kind of guys you can throw over the boards, and they're not going to make egregious mistakes. They're just going to play standard hockey.
It seems to be a little bit of the inverse of kind of where I come from. It's like I would rather take the chance on an undersized guy who has a ton of talent, because those are hard to find in the NHL, like guys with a ton of talent, and you always want guys who can score. So he's got Adam Banak at 24, and I totally understand why. I have him higher, but I have guys like Kashan Aitchison and the guys that he has higher, like Brady Martin and Jake O'Brien, where it's like I could see them doing something in the NHL and they're lower. Like my risk tolerance, I guess, is a lot lower or a lot higher than his. Yeah, a lot higher. And because I just feel like I mean, this has been a discussion we've had for years of like, you know, if you have talent now and it's a matter of working with it and figuring it out and managing it properly and getting stronger, I'd rather work with that first than a guy who, you know, is a strong kid, but might struggle to drive results in the NHL.
Yeah.
And maybe that's backwards, but the guys that tend to get undervalued are these sort of smaller guys who are fast and skilled and creative, and these like see the game on a sort of a different level than a lot of these other guys.
So do you think, because I'm pretty sure Bukala comes from like an actual NHL job background, right?
He does.
Do you think that kind of plays a factor into the way he ranks things too? Because, you know, he was a scout that needed job security.
Absolutely.
And can I point to the guy who I drafted for this franchise?
Absolutely. I mean, I've been told by many people that that's a big factor for a lot of people, is like your job is on the line every draft, right? Like you botch a first round pick and that's a huge problem for your team, right? Like a first round pick is very, very valuable, or at least it could be. So if you do a poor job with that, like I see the logic, right? Like I see the logic of looking at a guy who I have in the second round, like say a Kashan Aitchison, and going, I'm going to draft him at 20 because I could still see a coach throwing him into the lineup because he's going to be physical. He's going to do the whole set the tone thing. If he needs to, I'm sure he could drop the gloves. If I told him, like, if you're going to stay in the league, this is what you need to do. And then you have a player from the first round, right? Like then you've done okay. But if you draft Adam Banak and you go, okay, he's 5'7", but he's remarkably skilled and fast and has so much potential, but he's a little small and a guy who can get knocked around a little bit and hasn't been amazing in the USHL this year, then yeah, you're taking on a risk. And if it doesn't work out, like there's a lot of excuses to keep a guy like that out of the lineup. Whereas with a guy like Aitchison or a Brady Martin or a Blake Fiddler or a whoever, you can just you have excuses to put them in the lineup and go, okay, let's just see what they've got.
Yeah, it's a safety net kind of thing where
right. That said though, like I think it, like after the 20th pick in any given draft is kind of where you start seeing the interesting stuff of like where teams kind of seem to fall on this kind of thing, because some teams will look in a completely different direction, right? Like for him, if the draft goes the way he thinks, if it was like his first, second, third, fourth pick go off in that order, and you're at 24th overall and Adam Banak is still there, then I think that is a really good pick. It's a because at 24, generally you're maybe getting a third line NHL player, like a third, maybe second pair defenseman. Like if you get something in the late stages of the first round, you've done well. Most first round picks in that range are into the second round. I mean, nowadays it's a little different, but those guys don't generally have like extreme NHL potential at the end of the day. So sure, I could see that being a decent pick. So it's not necessarily all about safety net, but it's about like around here is where I'm comfortable maybe thinking about this player, which I think is more fair. Even because there are flaws with these guys, like Justin Carbonneau at 27 is a good example, right? Like he's very, 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 very skilled, but there's a lot, I think, around the edges that you need to work on, and that can be tough. So for me, at 27, it kind of makes sense where that's where you kind of start thinking about taking him. And beyond that, I think he becomes one of the more skilled guys available with risk, but I'm not thinking about him at 12 or something, right? Like that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I get it.
These things have nuance. There's a lot of context and nuance here. But yeah.
No, the world is in black and white, Will. And there's either good or evil.
It is if I'm a dog.
No.
Right? Because the world is black and white for dogs, right?
Isn't it?
Well, I know they don't see all colors. I know they don't see all colors, at least. I think they have like a yellow, like their world view is yellow, but I could be wrong. This is a total side note, but there's an ECHL team this year called the Tahoe Night Monsters, spelled KNIGHT. Interesting. I didn't know that. Okay, I don't know. That's a interesting name for a hockey team. Night Monsters. Okay.
Get to a different aside.
Yes, let's do that. I'll let you take it away on this one, and yeah, like where are we going? You
okay,
drive.
So, I think a lot of people in the community may know a certain guy who shows up in these live streams and praises Evan Bouchard pretty heavily. And he told me that there was a signing in his town of Edmonton, Alberta, where Evan Bouchard was going to be there. So I sent Rayanne. Well, he wanted to go, but I asked him to go with a camera and see what happened. So we're going to show this now because I think it's really hilarious. And we are going to debut our lovable boy, Rayanne, on the show. All right, guys? So this is our Edmonton correspondent, Rayanne Tubik, at the West Edmonton Mall signing. Enjoy, everybody.
Yeah, we ready to
Thank you. Guys, you made it yourself. No, come on.
I made this in high school, man.
You made it in high school?
You can take a player card of
I started with
some jersey?
Oh,
yeah. Okay. Well, thank you.
So welcome in, Rayanne. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing just fine,
How was that experience?
It was definitely a daunting experience because I was there since 12, and the event didn't start until like 6. So
Wait, you were
A
there
lot of
for...
Bouchard fans.
Hold on. You were there for 6 hours waiting in line?
yeah,
I thought it was
I was
4.
no. I came in there like at 12:30, and then because like here's the thought process. I was like I was done classes and I was just sitting down with my friends, and they're like, "Oh, you better go to the West Edmonton Mall." I'm like, "No, it's 12 o'clock. I'm fine." It's like, "No, you're not." So they showed me like CBC or whatever, like global news, and it's like people have been waiting outside for 8 hours. I'm like, "Come on." So like I had to like book an Uber, like hightail it to West Ed to get a spot, and there's already a lineup for Bouchard, and there's like lawn chairs, fast food wrappers everywhere, and it was just like I'm like I asked the first guy in line, I'm like, okay, where does the line is? How long have you been here? And then this lady's like, yeah, I've been here since 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock?
I thought you were crazy.
Oh
I
my god.
I thought I was determined. No, they were a lot more determined. I don't think I'm like the most excited fan there compared to some of the people waiting in line. It was absolutely nuts. Like just sitting there since 12:30, like the mental willpower and fortitude just to stand there is honestly insane. Like
Yeah, I mean, it's commendable. I certainly haven't ever stood in line for 6 hours for anything. I mean, I think I went to Disneyland once and stood in line for 3 hours for a ride, but 6 hours for an autograph from Evan Bouchard. I mean, I appreciate it because it made for some great moments there. But that, I mean, you got to laugh out of NHL hockey players, man. So kudos to you.
yeah, it was honestly really insane. It was surprising that they didn't let me autograph the poster.
Yeah, I thought that was
Especially-
stupid because it's just not that it's a meaningless poster, but in the grand scheme of things to everybody else, it's only meaningful to you and us because
Yeah,
I think it's
exactly.
hilarious.
It is really funny.
Correct. Well, I mean, I greatly enjoy that poster. I thought the thing that I found so funny because I wasn't really aware of this as it happened, but when you when you unrolled it and it was like way bigger than I thought it was gonna be. Like I thought it was gonna be an 8.5 by 11 like magazine cover, but no, it was bigger than you were.
Yeah,
So
it was.
I thought that was
It was
hilarious.
huge. Like I was trying to hide it from him as I was going to get it signed, so I had it face down because I didn't want him to see it. So I'm like, "Yo, Stetcher, can you sign this in the back here?" And then this lady was like, "Oh wait, we gotta check." I'm like, that's understandable. You don't want any prerogative anything on the cover. She checks on it. She's like, I don't know if we're allowed that. I'm like, what's wrong with this? What's wrong? And then I'm like, can I at least show it to them? And then she didn't say anything. She was about to say something. I'm like, no, screw it. I'm not gonna.
That's
I'm
a
not,
yes.
Like I was gonna this is my chance. This is my one chance. I flip it over, and then Stetcher behind me starts dying of laughter. His face is just red.
Well, it says Bouchard Generational on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And his Rasmus Sandina bust. All right. With
And it's
page,
like-
with page numbers, like indicating what page you would flip to, because it's a mock cover.
Yeah, it was supposed to be like a mock hockey news cover. Like that's what I base it off of. And then the only reaction, the only way I the words I were like, yeah, I made this in high school. This guy was like, oh my god, this is insane. So sorry.
That's okay. So you told me you said in the Scouching Discord chat that you actually lied to him. That you were following him from his Oakville Ranger days. Explain why you made the decision to lie to your hero's face.
Okay, here's the thing. I wanted to look a lot more better than the other people around my line. So they were just gonna be there big fan, oh great job, you're great. No, I wanted to be like, yeah, when I was younger, I watched you guys play in the GTHL with the Oakville Rangers. I was there when I was younger, and then I moved to Edmonton,
You
you
never
know, I
lived in
follow.
Toronto, did you?
No.
No, not once. No.
Yeah, Have you even set foot in Ontario ever?
Yeah, I
Yes,
have.
yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
in Ottawa.
Oh, okay.
Completely.
Okay, that's barely Ontario.
That's
but okay.
barely Ontario. But,
Fair enough.
But he's like, oh, and it was the first time like this guy was like, I have never seen this guy get like shooked before. Like I only see like a few emotions from this guy's face on TV, and then the first time I said, he's like, really? And I'm like, yeah.
Well, now he's gonna know that you just lied to his face, but I don't know if Evan Bouchard's an actual watcher of this show.
No,
but
I don't
if
think
he
so.
was,
No,
he
I don't
could
think
message
so.
you guys. But no,
Yeah.
it was he felt like genuine happiness for the first time. That's what I
For the first time
for the
ever.
first time in his life, just like
Yep.
this guy really gets me, you know. I'm like, oh, can he at least sign? He's like, yeah, sure. And then he signs it. He's like, you know what? Also, he just gives me like a player card. Like I have it here, like the player card here also of him
Oh.
signed. I can't really.
So you got two
Shoot.
things signed then.
Yeah, I got
There you go.
basically two things signed. And my goal was, I'm like, you know, I checked the rules. There's only one autograph per person. So I'm like, if I bring another person and they have my jersey and get that signed, so I have another jersey of signatures too, beating the loophole system. So 2-for-1 deal, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Evan Bouchard's biggest fan on the show.
I
Biggest
am
supporter
the
in his
OG.
own words. But
That's
yes,
true.
This is
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is Rayan. For those who don't know, he does
Yeah.
our thumbnails, and he's a big member of the community, as well as he's helped me make some of the graphics, like the pick is in graphic from the draft
Oh,
stream.
yeah.
That was a Rayan design. So say hello to Rayan. This is the guy that when I need something cooked up, I bring it to him. And he gets the
Yep.
job done for me because, like I said off the top of the show, I'm stupid and I've lucked into everything I've got in life. And he's one of those things I've lucked into. So thank you, Rayan. We really appreciate you, man. Now it's time for you to get off of our show.
Yeah, now get
and
the hell outta
never
here.
come
Yeah.
back.
I never liked you anyway, AJ.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
love you, buddy. Take it
Yeah.
easy.
Wow. What a guy.
What a guy.
What a guy. What a guy. One of the OGs, man. He's been around forever. Always been a great supporter, and it's great to have him involved. And you honestly, you didn't luck into this with me. You messaged me directly and asked. So you don't get what you don't ask for
Oh, I know.
in life.
I lucked
you know?
into it. I
You-
asked you in
you lucked.
2020. I asked you in 2020 to
did.
do stuff.
Yeah. And I didn't forget. I did not forget.
No, and I was like,
So-
and I kept asking every year. I think
Yeah.
not every year,
So-
but most years, and that's how this all kind of starts. You reach out, you shoot your shot, and it
Yeah.
works sometimes.
Sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
only tends to work with me for when I'm talking to dudes about job opportunities. It's never with it's never with women, unfortunately. but,
well.
I will not get into that. So
Yeah.
let's
we
move
don't
on
need
to
to
the
go
second
in
part
that.
of the show. And
Yes.
ladies and gentlemen, fire away any questions you have. Also,
Yes, sir.
please like the stream. We've got this has been kind of a cursed stream and a cursed day in terms of getting this stuff all together, but we really do appreciate you. So fire away your questions, we'll answer them, but please do leave a like.
While people are thinking about maybe some excellent questions to ask, what do you think about the fall of Rome last night?
Oh, and Survivor.
Are you that was an unbelievable. If anyone is I guess we just spoiled it
Too
if
bad.
anyone's watching
Too
and hasn't
bad.
watched the episode last night. Spoiler alert, but my goodness. What an episode of TV that was last night. I had a great
It
time.
was cringy, man.
It was
kinda
I mean,
cringy.
yeah, they set that up. It was T-ball instead of baseball. Everybody knew, you could tell that what was going to happen, and you were
Except
just
for
along
Rome.
for the ride. Well, yes. And he didn't know right up until the final moments, and it was just beautiful. And I mean, honestly, he took it on the chin pretty well, all things considered. So at least he can take it. He dished it. He can take it. So that's
Yes.
cool. But my goodness, what a run he had.
You see all
The crocodile
confessionals he
tears
had?
also.
All the
Yeah.
confessionals he had, it's like, I'm running the game, man. I'm running the
Yep.
game.
Yep.
No.
Yep.
No.
And I will also say my better half called it in literally 5 seconds. We're watching the episode and it opens with him talking, and she goes, he's out. They wouldn't open the episode like this if this wasn't the episode where it's the collapse of everything that he built or tried to build. And
Built
she was
his
right. So
empire.
good call.
Mhm,
Shout out.
mhm.
Yeah, built his empire and the empire fell. The barbarians came and
Well, but everybody was making.
Odoacer
Oh wow, you bringing up Odoacer, man.
Odoacer just came and took over,
Now I don't like you for bringing up Odoacer
What? What's wrong with Odoacer the barbarian?
because he ruined my people's crowning achievement.
No, your people polluted their own society, and he
Yes,
just
with-
came in and
With other barbarian generals taking over
Exactly.
and bribery.
barbarian mercenaries, not a good idea. Anytime
Yeah.
your empire starts employing mercenaries is usually when things fall apart. That happened to the ancient Egyptians, I think. During the
Oh.
Bronze Age collapse, I think they were hiring, or they had I think their civilization collapsed because they also had too many horse chariots,
Yes.
which are apparently very expensive
Yes,
to
yes.
maintain, and they
then
ran out of money.
Who was it? The Sea People or the Hicks?
Yeah, the Sea Peoples.
In their case, I think. But we're going on a big.
I love the
history right
Bronze. I could talk about the Bronze Age collapse all day. I think it's the coolest thing. I mean, it sucked. It was awful, supposedly, but really fun historical thing that I didn't really learn about until I was well into my adulthood. But it's very interesting. Anyway, let's dive into the questions here. Let's
let's
get
go
this
for it.
show on the road. So yeah, someone asked about your interview. I am going. Okay, so David Phillips popped in immediately with someone, and I am not sure this is a person. It is a person. Okay, so Yegor Midlak. I thought that was a joke because mid is in his last name.
No.
Yegor Midlak, who has played 3 games this year and not given up a goal, but it was a period in overtime, and 3 minutes of relief. So he's played 50 minutes of ice time as a goaltender and has not let in a goal. I don't know what that means. And I don't know. He's 6'6". There you go, David. So he's awesome. He's awesome. There's your David Phillips question of the day. AJ.
No.
So it's happening.
Banned.
I gotta
J-Mulk's
get it on
banned.
record.
No,
J-Mulk
no, J-Mulk's
in
banned.
all the way
Banned.
from Britain.
Banned.
No, he's not banned. It says AJ
Banned,
needs to dress
banned,
up like
banned,
known
banned.
draft bust Fabian Liesel.
Banned.
No.
No. Fake news. Didn't hear it.
Fabian Liesel is gonna be fine. He's gonna be fine. It's
You're
just
making me-
you'll be able to take victory laps in 3 years.
Wow.
I mean, by that time, maybe he'll be a well-established NHL player. I mean, the Bruins could maybe use a little bit of an offensive infusion. I believe. Last I checked,
They need
like,
him. I don't get
yeah,
it. I don't
the
get
Bruins have scored 3 goals a game, so that's slightly below average, I think, but it's
probably
average.
around the
Yeah.
average. It's just like, why wouldn't you let a guy just do his thing like that? Why? Because you have Mark Kaslick scoring 5 goals randomly or something? Like, I think Mark Kaslick has 5 goals somehow.
They are the 8th best team in the Eastern Conference, currently sitting in a playoff spot. And of those 8 teams, they have the fewest goals scored total, regardless of games played. So there's that.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? But they're not losing a lot. They're 500-ish. So cool. Go Bruins. Someone
Now
mentions that there's
Rayanne's banned. Now Rayanne's banned.
What do you do?
Well, look at what he said.
Oh, yes, I see now. I see.
Now he's banned too.
Oh, now people are just coming for you. Cole Koepka and Mark Kastelik clear Liesel.
Hate you guys.
I mean, if you put Mark Kastelik on the ice for 7 minutes a night and tell him to go out there and raise hell, he'll do it. That's what he does. And that's kind of why you draft guys like that, because you can just plug them in and they'll go out there and race hell. I'm surprised that Wong is a B. We talked about him a little bit. I wasn't too surprised, but I wouldn't do it. I would maybe have him as a C, maybe that, and you'd take a chance on him, but he's very raw. Thoughts on Olivier Groulx and Sean Carrier? I will need to check up on these. Sean Carrier, his link is purple, so I've looked. Yes, the Halifax Mooseheads kid. Yeah, I thought Carrier was fine. I haven't seen him in detail. Groulx, I'm not familiar with, so I'll have to take a look. But Carrier, I thought was interesting. Like, there's a bit of skill there, but he's a 5'10". Like, when you're 5'10", and I'm the guy that deals with size. But when you're that small, like you got to be, especially in the queue, like really dominant. And I thought with him, it's just he looks like a good junior skilled, guy with some good evasive ability. And I want to look at him more because I do think that he's a interesting one maybe for like down the list out of the queue. But I haven't seen him too much. But I haven't disliked what I've seen of him. But I don't know about NHL upside. But I don't know. We'll see. My Temu phone charger worked fine for longer than the ones you get from Apple. I mean, fair enough. I still don't like their tactics, and they still make crap. Okay,
Their
this one's a
stuff is
dead
cheaper,
giveaway.
man. It's cheaper.
Whoever Whitaker Hart is, this one's a dead. Oh, oh my god, I'm an idiot. This is a dead giveaway. Or I thought it was Alan Shakhlislamov. Wow, his name is Alan. And his last name is impossible to pronounce. Okay, that's hilarious. That's an instant win. I thought that was a made up name, so good for you for tricking me into thinking that was made up.
This all started with Moritz Seider's brother, and
yes.
now it's become this. If you guys don't know that clip, I'm sure it's out there. I've seen it.
We should pull it and make it a YouTube short. I don't know where it was. I don't know
Somebody
where
how we'd
be able to find it.
You know who I think would have access to it? Is David Phillips. Because
I don't know.
No, I'll explain why. Because my brother is in a chat, like in an Instagram chat with David Phillips. My brother, for those of you who don't know, ran the Puck Analysis account on Instagram, and I was also part of it a bit. But that's where I remember him seeing that video of Moritz Seider's brother. And we're not going to say it. We're not going to say the name because it's not actually his brother, and it's...
You can put it together, probably.
Yeah.
You can piece it together in your mind, but let's get back on track. But if you can find that clip, it would make a good YouTube short.
So David, send it to us because I'm sure you have access to it.
Yes, but Alan Shakhlislamov is an 08 playing in the MHL. He's 16 years old, just turned 16. I've seen Tolpar a few times. I've never written his name down for watching that team, but that doesn't mean he's no good. There's a few really interesting 2008s. I mean, again, this is something that happens every year, but next year's draft class does look very interesting. The WHL guys,
already with this, eh?
We heard no. Hear me out. When we talked to Joel on Monday night, everything we talked about is totally legit. The 08s and the WHL look fantastic. And there have been quite a few guys where I'm quite interested, like the Russian 08s. There are some good ones. I mean, again, like this season, the bar is just a little lower than usual. So it's a little bit more optimistic next year, in my opinion. But I will fast forward 1 year.
You know what this sounds like
every year in October.
You know how you always say that fans get all wrapped up about their prospects in their system.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this is a similar thing for you, but future draft classes. It's like, I know I'm watching terrible
100%.
hockey all the time, but the guys next year, this is gonna really be like this is a good reason why I'm still watching. I just have to grind through this class to get to the next one.
Yes,
because the future is bright, ladies and gentlemen.
Exactly.
I promise, I swear.
Yes.
And then when it doesn't live up to what you want, you then go into the bank further. The guys next year are going to be awesome. So you are a part of this same cycle, just in a different way.
Oh, I know. I'm a hypocrite. Everybody's a hypocrite in some way. 100%. You can't avoid it. It's impossible. It's human nature.
Okay?
No, never. Not once. No, not once.
I have been in the past, but I really try to limit it as much as possible because there's nothing I like less than that.
It's a big part of life. It's a big part of life is learning how to be less of a hypocrite. That's like a constant learning process.
Being self-aware as much as you can be.
Correct.
I know I interrupt Will a lot, and I'm sorry about it, but sometimes I can't control it, unfortunately.
Unlike Rome on Survivor, you got to be self-aware.
They definitely play it up though, but he gave them a lot of stupid
he gave
stuff
them a lot of lovely
bury him with, to absolutely bury him with. And
yes, Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Editors, great job. Give them a raise. Okay, someone mentions that Gordy Greep is the GOAT. Yes. If you're not familiar, Gordy Greep was the lead singer of the band Black Midi, which was awesome. I loved them for years. I have all their records on vinyl as well. It's his first solo album. And yeah, the music video for the first single off this album is him in a bowling alley, just bowling strike after strike after strike after strike. It's and it's just amazing. So you got to go check it out. Just search Gordy Greep on YouTube. It'll be the first one that pops up. What do you think of Lyndon Lakovic? I struggle to see him more than a Pierre Engvall type player, but I might be biased as a Bosnian. I like Lyndon Lakovic. I think that he is a guy. I see what you mean with the Pierre Engvall comp, where there's he's a lanky kid with a lot of talent, and you just want him to. I mean, AJ, you probably remember. Like, you just want him to do more.
Yes.
It's like you can skate, so skate a little harder. You have skill, so challenge guys more. You have size, use your size more. Right? Like, it's all of these things, and it's like not coming together as often or as much as you would like. But with Lakovic, I think what I like about him is, at least at the junior level, like, he seems to read his opponents really well, like navigating through defensemen to maintain possession of the puck, like where he holds the puck and how he holds it away from guys, and just the patience that he has. Like, I think if he learns how to walk that line at higher levels of, okay, I need to distribute a little more here, or I need to recognize a limitation here, or here, or here, or I'm going to push things further and try to be a bigger individual difference maker. I think that's possible for him, but I see where the Pierre Engvall type of thing comes from. But also, Pierre Engvall is a longtime NHLer who just got himself a 6-year contract, right? So he must be decent at the end of the day.
It was 7 a while ago. Like, you got a 7-year deal, I'm pretty sure, but I think it was a while ago now.
Oh, was it?
And
Either
he's
way,
in the minors now.
Yeah, he got waived. But for a while there,
I love
for
him.
a while there.
Look,
yeah, he's a
my
fun player.
boy. He's my boy. 6th round pick, I think.
Yeah, he was. Yep.
You know what's hilarious? He was more valuable to the Toronto Maple Leafs than the guy they picked in the 1st round that year, because I believe he's in 2013.
Oh, yeah. I think you're right.
Freddie Gauthier, baby.
Freddie Gauthier. A great example. I mean, I love that. That's one of my like seminal moments as a person interested in prospects is they were talking about Freddie Gauthier, who when he was drafted, I think he was like under a point a game in Quebec. Yeah, he had 52 points in 54 games, and then he was a point a game the next year with Rimouski. And everybody, the moment he was drafted, they're like, "Oh, he's just a he's a third line center down the road. Like, that's just what he's going to be. He's got the size and he's physical." And I just went, "Yeah, like that's not how it works." Like, over time, you start to realize that like a lot of the third line guys in the NHL and fourth line guys are generally players who play up here and then figure it out in the NHL and end up here, right? Like, it's like they're not down here in the QMJHL and they'll end up down here in the NHL. It's like like Lars Eller is a perfect example. When Lars Eller was 17 or something, he was elite, like one of the best young players in the world. And he just sort of slowly figured out the role in which he plays in the NHL. And he's been a decent middle six, third line center for years and years and years.
Excellent.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, he's excellent at it. He's one of my He's up there as one of my very favorite guys who do that role.
Yeah. And meanwhile, 2 picks after Freddie Gauthier, Andre Burakovsky went. Shea Theodore. You know, guys who push things positively, right? Like guys who
Theodore, man, that's crazy.
Right.
That hurts so bad. That hurts.
Imagine
so
Toronto
bad.
had Shea Theodore over the last decade.
Dude, we could have had Morgan Riley, Dougie Hamilton, and Shea Theodore all together.
Tyler Seguin.
Yeah, well, he'd be a part of that equation, but there's probably no Austin Matthews in that equation, unfortunately. So you know what? I'm okay with the way it turned out.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, whatever.
We have William Nylander, Austin Matthews, and Mitch Marner, baby. I am thrilled about that.
All right. Okay, so I also saw Rombach was a B, Jacob Rombach, that is. He gave me a little bit of Adam Kleber vibes. I mean, that's exactly kind of what I see out of him. I do see a bit of I have a game of Rombach ready to go that I haven't done yet, so I can't be too specific, but Rombach has been solid. I liked him at the 16U Nationals, but everybody who I liked at that tournament has not been super impressive now that they're in the USHL and such. And I find that Rombach is a decent, safe guy. So yeah, I don't know. He's fine, but I'll have more in the next few weeks. Does a subpar draft class make evaluation more of a chore? No. I still love what I do. I still love seeing players play and seeing what they bring to the table and all of that. And like, it's not necessarily like, I don't want to make it, again, like I try to be as respectful as I possibly can. These kids are way better at hockey than I am. Like I can play hockey, but they're way better than me. So it's like, I can't be too judgmental, but what I'm trying to say is like, it's just, I think there's a lot of guys who, you know, it's possible that they could turn out to be great NHL players. It's time will tell, right? Like we don't know. This is all sort of crystal ball stuff.
I
but
think I might have a way to gauge what way to phrase what you're saying.
Yes.
You're just given a gauge on what the strength of the class is compared to others. It is purely an evaluation thing. It is not a thing where it's like, oh, this guy sucks at hockey. No. We're not Drew Doughty yelling at whoever he was yelling at.
Yeah.
I forget. But it is more just we're taking a look at this or analyzing who these players are in the NHL compared to the strength of NHL players. We do not mean to be disrespectful. We hope for the best for all these guys. It's like, that's awesome that these guys are pursuing something they love so much. Isn't that the dream?
And really good at it.
Yeah, and really good at it.
You know, like, and that's the thing too, right? Like, I also come at this from an angle of like, it's not just about the NHL, right? Like, part of what I do, I also run Fractal Hockey, right? Like, I work over there, and part of what we do there is everything but the NHL, right? Like, I also am keeping an eye on guys where it's like, yeah, I mean, Europe is a great place to play. Like, if these guys don't work out in the NHL, you can make a great living playing in Europe. You can make a really good living playing in the AHL, right? Like, it's not the end of the world. And frankly, in some cases, like, maybe being in Europe is even better. Like, I'll tell you this, like, I was talking to a guy, I went to a conference last year with a lot of European GMs, and it was kind of amazing because there were players there and they were playing in this tournament, and it was kind of amazing watching them learn about it as they learned about it, see them kind of change their mindset on things, right? Like, you might think, oh my God, like, I'm playing second division hockey in France. And it's like, okay, but number one, the fans that show up love the team and they love hockey, right? Like, they love the sport. So they're going to be great. Number two, if you're good and you can help that team get promoted, you play in the top division in France, which is a pretty decent league in Europe. Number three, it's the money you get paid is tax-free. You get a furnished apartment. You get a car, generally. Not everybody, but generally. Like, you get things given to you that you don't have to worry about, and you basically take home cash. So it's not the end of the world. And that goes pretty deep, right? Like, the UAE is trying to make a big push in hockey. They're trying to hire guys and spend money and bring some talent there and bolster their program. Like, there's a whole world of hockey outside the NHL that exists. And in some ways, like, you'll see videos of teams like the Swiss Pro League, right? Like, one of the best pro leagues in the world. And the fans are insane. The arenas are gorgeous. You don't have to travel, right? Like, think about it this way. Like, you could either live in Belleville and play for the Senators and make 60 grand, or you could live in the mountains of Switzerland, play for a smaller town and make 50,000 euros, maybe more, and take it all home. And you don't have to all you do is travel within Switzerland. You're not traveling to Coachella Valley one day and then Toronto the next day and, you know, wherever. So it's a very interesting thing there. So it's like, when I look at this draft class, it's not necessarily like, okay, yeah, like the NHL upside kind of whatever, but it is in the back of my mind, like, there are good role players here, I think. Like, at the end of the day, I think there's quite a few players where it's like, yeah, I could see on an NHL team this guy being a third line guy, maybe, but they're not that now, right? Like, take, for example, I don't know, yeah, like a Jake O'Brien. Like, he's a premier player for Brantford right now, but would I say he's going to be a premier player in the NHL? Probably not. But like, regress back to a middle six center, maybe a winger, sure, yeah, I could see it. You just give it time. So yeah, it's not a chore at all. It's great when I come across something where I'm like really excited and super thrilled about what I'm watching and super excited about the player. That's great, but not everybody is incredible. You just have to. If anything, it makes it more interesting because then you're sifting through and trying to figure out these guys and like what they bring and curious about what other people think. Like I'm very curious about what other people think about this draft class. So it's always interesting to see what other people put out there regarding these guys, especially with people who I know watch these guys. So it's all just very interesting to me more than anything. It's not necessarily always about the quality of the player.
Hold on. I'm going to add something because it's going to
Yes.
be a promotional thing too for
Yes.
us. So Landon DuPont's dad played in Germany and Switzerland. And now look at his son. And it's obviously not a 1-to-1 correlation by any means, but it's like he took that route. He played hockey in Switzerland and Germany, which I'm sure was pretty cool. And we'll show more of that in game tape potentially. You'll see it. You'll see it. You'll see it.
Correct.
But and now look what's happened, right? He's got two kids that are playing. One kid that's playing in the AJHL and another kid with exceptional status in the WHL. It's like,
yeah,
it's just like you can make a living off of it. And clearly it's something that he felt really strongly about, and he's passed that on to his children. So like there is purpose and meaning in these things.
Yeah, and I also would just throw out there, like, the Champions Hockey League is a thrill to watch, especially because you see the fans, you see some cool arenas. Europe does hockey.
Leafs game, I can promise you that.
Yeah, Europe does hockey really, 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 really well, and like it's a different thing. I found it really interesting listening to there were players at this conference who have played in Europe for years, and listening to them and their stories about what it's like and all of that stuff. And there's part of it that you would fully expect and part of it you totally wouldn't. And that's always been really, really interesting to me. So I'm more interested in the world of hockey rather than just this guy is an NHL player and a really, really good one. That's not always my focus, I would say. Compared to Central Scouting's rankings, how many first round talents are in this draft according to my list? So I would say probably around the same number, like 24, 23, something like that. Probably on my list, it probably ends around names like Blake Fiddler, Braden Coots, Will Moore, Cameron Schmidt, Zeb Lindgren, I think is in there. Those are the guys where I watch them and I'm like, yes, I am excited to watch more. This is a very interesting player and I could see them being a first round pick and blah, 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 blah. So yeah, similar number, just some of the names are different, really, like a few of them. Reese Hamilton or Luka Radivojevic? I mean, I have Radivojevic higher, but I think there's more risk with Radivojevic. I think Hamilton is a smarter defender and a smarter puck mover, but Radivojevic is a lot more fun, and I think the talent base is higher, but that's no disrespect to Reese Hamilton. He's a good player himself as well. All right. Just curious who your highest rated Finn is. Well, I mean, I have a couple of re-entries actually that are high. So I've got Tobias Heinonen as a third rounder, Daniel Niemanen, third rounder. But for first-time draft eligibles, Lassi Bolius is the guy. Yasu Mensinen is also on my list, who I like, but Bolius is the guy I think that I would push for first. I mean, I would push for the two re-entries that I like, but if you had a draft eligible you wanted, Bolius would be the guy, but I think he's still a bit of a long shot. Like, I'm surprised he was a B. Like, he's not the most physical guy. He's not the biggest guy, but he is definitely skilled. He wants to play a very creative, high-end game. Like, when I watched Bolius, I got a lot of Aaron Kiviharju vibes there from him. That's similar, a similar player there, and I had Kiviharju ranked in a similar range last year.
So let's take a second here to think about this, because like, in recent years, there have not been the same amount of like high-end finish talent. Why do you think that is?
Um,
Like, because what was the last really awesome Finnish guy? What was it, like Brad Lambert? Maybe?
Brad Lambert.
Yeah,
And that
and he's
was
like
an
half
interesting
Finnish.
one. Right.
And they
And he was
hated him.
bad. And he was bad in Finland. Or at least he wasn't producing in Finland. I mean, from my perspective, just watching the top divisions of all of these leagues, like Finland's is just not on the same, like when you compare an SHL game to a Liga game, in my opinion, it's not even close, right? Like I think a big thing with Finland, and this is kind of where I was a little bit lower on Consta Hellenius than a lot of people last year, for example. He took advantage of bad players a lot, right? Like guys in the defensive end, defensemen who were breaking the puck out, but didn't have really good skating ability or skill and just waited way too long. And Hellenius would cut down the angles on him, cut down the space and cut them off and turn over the puck, or cause a turnover, I should say. So it's like the low end players in Finland are not great. And I think that drags the quality down a little bit and makes other types of players appear more valuable. At the junior level, I think a problem at the junior level is that there are some teams that have good resources and good talent, and teams that are up near the Arctic Circle and not good, and in the middle of nowhere and have nobody on the team. And so you get this very wide, it's kind of like Russia, like this very wide range of teams in Finland's junior leagues. That's not a death sentence, but I think a lot of it has to do with the style of play and the pace of play getting ratcheted up pretty much everywhere, like Canada, the US, Sweden, Switzerland. Like Switzerland's pro league is fast as hell. And Finland, it is just a lot more, I don't know how to describe it. Like there's a lot more pass first, sort of slower pace of play type of things going on, more than anything. So a guy like, sorry, what?
No,
what?
it's okay.
Go ahead.
No, keep on. I
was just gonna say, like a guy like Lassi Bolius can do the things he does, the skill wise, the creativity wise, and get away with it because he doesn't face as much pressure from players, and he doesn't, he his skating ability is more on par with his opponents. He's a good shooter as well. He's got a pretty good shot. But yeah, I mean, I think a big part of it is there's just the speed of the game in a lot of places has increased. And when the speed of the game increases, if you don't increase with it, it makes it a lot harder to make a difference.
And you would say then, because Russia seems to have a similar problem, but the population is so much greater. So that might be the reason that we still get all these good Russian kids that are on draft boards. But because Finland's small too. That's the other thing. I think it's got a population size smaller than the greater Toronto area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's kind of
You're
incredible when we think about it, how well they punched in terms of their actual weight. And like they're viewed really, really highly because like their teams at international tournaments just play well together. But I think it's because they play so different and weird. That
it is different and
just,
weird.
It's just hard to combat with because you're so used to another style of hockey. So,
well, the thing is too to note, like if you watch the World Juniors from the last few years, the Finns do okay, but a lot of that is because they play physically. They have big guys that are young now. Well, I don't know if they'll be as big this year, but guys like Newman and Haminaho and all those guys who are just big and are rocks on skates, and they can grind you down, right? And Finland, all they need to do is win 2-1, right? Grind 2 goals and prevent everything you possibly can. And it sometimes works, right? But in the NHL, you can't really play that way really much and be as successful generally, at least not anymore. It's not impossible, but it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
J Milk. Zeb Lindgren participated in a loss to the Sheffield Steelers. He's undraftable. Fair enough. I guess that's it. End of the party. Do you think Landon DuPont could end up with getting a Bedard Mania hype train by his draft year? I mean, honestly, I think it's possible. He's really, 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 really good and playing really, 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 really well. And he's still got 2 more years to go. So I think it's entirely possible.
Yep. And having spoken to him and listening to him answer Tony's questions,
Yep.
I just believe that kid's gonna be something special. Just
He's
the
a
way,
thing.
just the way he thinks really is impressive.
Yeah, he'll be a thing. Someone mentions that the Blackhawks had 2 top 10 busts in Barker and Skilly while rebuilding their team and built a 3 cup winning team. I mean, fair enough. I mean, you draft that's another thing that's an interesting point. Like the Blackhawks drafted guys outside of the first round who made up for those busts, right? So it's not just about your first round pick working, but it's about your entire draft class being good and useful. So that's a fair point. But also on the other hand, the Blackhawks were awful for a really long time through that stretch, right? Like they ended up with some also good players through that stretch, guys who were drafted high as well, right? But the Blackhawks for a long time were not a good hockey team, and they just had a few drafts where they hit outside the first round as well and made up for those losses on guys like Barker and Jack Skill? I don't remember. How high were you on Anton Lundell in his draft year? Does his recent run in the top 6 show he has more upside than you thought offensively? I mean, I always thought he was a second or third line center, like just based on the way he plays. I had him pretty high.
I think he
Was that 2020?
Yes, it was 2020. I think you had him around
He was
10, 11.
top 10 for me. I had him at 10. I had him at 10. And the best player available at the 12th overall pick that I had was, let me see here.
I think I know who it might be.
No, it was Lundell. Yeah, Lundell was my best player available at 12 that year. Yeah.
Our boy, rest his soul, I think was 11 then, yeah?
Yes, yeah. Lundell, Amirov, and then Huznadinov that year, and then Seth Jarvis. We're not going to talk about that. I mean, I love Murat and I loved Rodion, but Seth Jarvis has turned out to be amazing. But 13th overall, and he went 13th. I'll take it. But yeah, I mean, does it mean there's more offensive upside than I thought? I mean, he's the type of guy where if you put him with guys who can score, he could generate production, right? He's just a really smart 200-foot guy, and so good for him. You know, if he's playing in the top 6 in Florida and it works, then that's awesome. Good for him, you know?
I get to say this because it's true. He's a 3C on a Stanley Cup champion.
Yeah, which I thought he could be. A really good third-line center, you know? That's kind of what he was at 17 or 18, and there's nothing wrong with that. Better than me.
Don't worry, Will. We all know better than you. I think every hockey player we talk about on this show is better than you. If they're not, that's concerning. I said hockey player, not every person.
Fair enough. Someone mentions they've been here long enough to remember my love for Ryan Suzuki. I mean, yeah. I mean, Ryan Suzuki was a good junior player, but I think that's going to be a very interesting 2019. I would also say it was the last year before I really started digging into this. And that was my last year where I was way more data focused. Now I'm way more hockey focused and the data is more just informative for me. So it'd be interesting to go back in time and be myself at that time and do the work that I do now and see where I come down on guys like that. But I mean, having Nils Höglander that high and him being a second round pick, that feels pretty good too.
You and Nick Robertson kind of high too, right?
Yeah, I had Nick Robertson at 20, I think. 19. Nick Robertson. I'm looking now. Nick Robertson was 23. And yeah, he was the best player available at that pick for me for Toronto at 53. Where did I have Suzuki? Yeah, I had Suzuki a little higher. Anyway. Who's the most meat and potatoes player you've seen this class? Logan Hensler, maybe. He's fine. He's effective and fine.
And you have him at 10. Yes?
Yeah, 10 right now. He's fine. I mean, I like Carter Bear's type of meat and potatoes. Like he's a good difference making style of meat and potatoes, but he's not like super skilled, super fast, super whatever. He just is very good. Maybe that's more of a PTFG type thing. If you're not aware, play the effing game type guy.
That was freaking or
yeah,
game.
effing frickin'. Play the frickin' game. Yeah, but I'd say Logan Hensler maybe is the best answer to that right now. Just a useful guy, just goes out and plays.
And then what? Carter Bear's like meat and mashed potatoes because mashed potatoes
Sure.
are better than standard
Yeah.
potatoes.
That's true. Baked potatoes, yeah, mashed potatoes are better than baked potatoes. As long as are you okay? Are you when you make mashed potatoes? Is there skin in the mashed potatoes, or do you peel the
Why?
potatoes and mash them?
Well,
What?
I don't make. Okay, let's be clear. My mom, I eat what my mom makes me a lot of the time.
Okay.
Except for on
Right.
Wednesday nights where I make my pasta bolognese, which is pretty good. But
Sure.
I'm not used to skin in the mashed
Oh,
potatoes.
I love skin and mashed potatoes. I'm a skin guy. Love the skin. I don't know. Mashed potatoes without skins in them, it's too homogeneous and I don't like it.
What?
No. Too good. No.
Wouldn't
No.
it be? Would it be homogeneous? Or
What did I say? Homogeneous? So that's
Yeah.
a biology term.
yeah.
Homogeneous. Yeah. Homogeneous is a biology thing. But it's a different word, I think. Anyway, doesn't matter.
It is a different word.
Yeah. If DuPont and McKenna were eligible for this year's draft, where would they be ranked? I mean, DuPont would probably be 1. McKenna probably 5, 6, something like that. I mean, I love Gavin McKenna. It's hard to say. I honestly haven't seen much of him this year, but yeah, I think he's in the mix of all these high end guys this year. Hagens, Misa, Martone, right in there. Maybe Schaefer, but he hasn't played yet, so who knows? Yeah, something like that. He might actually be higher than those guys because he's about Schaefer's age. So if he were eligible and Schaefer is one of the youngest guys in the draft, then he might be number 1, maybe number 2. But I would have DuPont ahead of him. I'm so ready to drop Lascelles in my keeper league. I mean, he should be playing in the NHL, right? Like
Well, how big?
he was good in the preseason. They need scoring. He should be playing in the NHL, but Boston.
Here's my question with that. How many teams? Because it depends, right? Like if you're on a 32 team keeper league, don't do it. But if you're like in a 10 team keeper league, like it's fine.
Yeah. You'll survive.
Or like you could drop them. Like it's all dependent on what your settings are.
True.
So if it's a shorter, like if it's a smaller league, you can go ahead and do it. This is fantasy manager brain AJ talking, and let me tell you something, okay?
I don't have that. I don't have that at all.
I have won 4 out of the past 5 years in my main league, and I'm very proud of it because I'm very good at this stuff. All right, this is something I do very religiously. So you can drop them. I'm just bad in the Scouching league because it's boring. There's too many teams, too long. I like redraft.
Wow.
I like redraft for the most part. But
Well, whatever.
it's okay. If somebody wants my
I'm
team,
not
they can
offended.
have it. It's fine. Just
I'm only a little offended.
It has Fabian Lascelles on it. No surprise. But it's also got Adam Fantilli and Logan Stankoven. Sorry to hurt your feelings on the air, Will.
No, whatever. I'll survive. All right. What 2 players would you swap to see them on the other team? Ooh, I thought about this because I saw it come up earlier and I thought about it. This might just be because it's convenient, but I would swap Shane Wright with Yuri Slavkovsky. I would be fascinated to see Slavkovsky in Seattle and Shane Wright in Montreal. I would be, not because it's like, oh, maybe one is better than the other, but just to see how that plays out or how that would play out.
The different timeline.
The timeline, yeah, like what Martin St. Louis would do with a guy like Shane Wright. That would be interesting to me.
You'd bench him because he's a bust, Will. No,
yeah, he's a bust.
But yeah.
Probably that. I don't know. Do you have an answer?
I know I want Fabian off the Bruins. That's for sure. So he can go play. But
all right.
I don't know. Honestly, I can't think of like 2 players I'd swap. I just know of guys, and like I'm not even that serious about the Lascelles one. I'm just more frustrated. I want to see him play. Like Nick Ehlers on a different team would be cool. Like I know he's getting more time now. But I think that'd be interesting. Or
that's a good one.
What if we swapped? What if we got rid of Alex Tuck from Buffalo? How bad Tage Thompson would be, and how Like,
Oh,
what
boy.
would that be? You know, I'm putting it out there right now. Tage Thompson is an Alex Tuck merchant. It's fine, and I'm sure he'd work well with another good player who can drive a line. But I think there's so much hype around Tage Thompson, or there was when he was going crazy in, what was it, 2022?
Yep.
Or 2023? One of the, I think it was.
And he got his
2023.
contract.
He got his contract, right? But like, I think it was a product of Alex Tuck doing all the work and Tage Thompson just skilling it up, being humongous big, and just ripping it. And it worked until teams are like, okay, we got a game plan for this guy, and now what is he doing?
The world is so humongous big.
Still a very good player. I just think very overrated, but still like him. Alex Tuck's better though. Alex Tuck's better. Hate me all you want.
Do you see Jack Ivankovic as a first rounder? Did his fight raise his draft stock? LOL. I mean, goalie fights are meaningless. I personally don't see him as a first rounder. I see him as maybe late first round in this year's draft class. I do like the goalies in this year's draft a little bit. Let me see. I have liked Harenstam and Andrianov more. Those are my two guys that I've really liked in net this season. So there's those guys. Where was I here? I don't have access to that, but I do. Oh, so yeah, Misak's brother. That was a good one. Thoughts on Ongrath? Thoughts on Ongrath, the Flame Chained? Dude, that's a sick Magic card, honestly. You could build a sick deck around that.
How do people know about your Magic obsession? Have you said something?
I've mentioned it before.
Oh.
I have actually.
Oh no! Oh no! What have I done? What have I done?
All my Magic cards are in here.
Nerd.
So I have this box that looks like a pirate's treasure chest full of Magic cards. Anyway, with that out of the way, yeah, I mean, the thing about Ongrath the Flame Chained is that you can build a deck around it that just, I mean, the whole point of it is to put your opponent's cards in the graveyard and also just remove them from their hand and slowly kill them the whole time. And then when you fill their graveyard, you use its superpower and it destroys your opponent. So if you can build a black deck that just pummels your opponent with putting cards in their graveyard, then I think you'll be yeah. You mentioned a Minotaur themed deck based around Ongrath the Flame Chain, and I have a deck very similar to that. I don't have that Planeswalker though. I might go buy it because I forgot about this card because it's really good. But I have other Ongrath Planeswalkers that are pretty good.
Who do you even play this with? Like, I'm just curious.
I play online. Like, I mean, I have friends who introduced me to this, like as an adult.
So do you like? Okay, so do you have like the online code, like because I know some card games will do.
No.
Use this.
No.
Then how do you play online? What do you like? Go on Zoom calls and show?
Yeah, well, there's a Magic card like free to play online version. So you get digital. So you get digital cards. It's separate from the physical ones. But I play physical Magic with people. Like I've done it many times. I go away for a weekend every year with some friends in the spring, and we play Magic for a weekend. And it's fun. It's a good time. I lose all the time. Because I refuse. I have a personal refusal to play decks that I don't build. I know people, and it's totally fine that you do this, but they go out and buy decks from deck lists that people make, and you just go to a store and go, I want these cards, and they'll give them to you. I don't like doing that. I like to just get the cards I get and try to build a deck and then lose. I still scream and get sad when I lose, but I like to lose with decks that I've built. And then just I do have a really good deck of dinosaurs. There was a run of dinosaur cards from a few years back that I got a bunch of them, and I got a really sick deck of dinosaurs there that just, if it works, I love Magic the Gathering, man. It's great.
You've not been this excited in the entire live stream. Like, I don't even think you were as enthused by.
I just love that someone asked me about a specific Planeswalker card, and one that is like one that I recognize. It's kind of funny.
Oh man,
I also saw Stephen A. Smith the other day talking about which would you rather from the first run of Magic cards, which would you rather have, and it was a Black Lotus or a Soul Ring. And for anyone who knows Magic, that's, do you want the most valuable card in the whole world, or do you want one that is probably should be banned but is not? Which would you prefer? But yes, Magic the Gathering is an excellent game. I picked it up when I was in my 20s, so I was old, but I love it. It's great.
Incredible. What was that? 4 minutes, maybe?
Yeah, probably. Someone threw up Botan de Begonia, which is the best name in the world.
So it's
who is
fake.
no, it's real. 16-year-old defenseman from Hungary
man.
playing in the Austrian under 18 league. I don't know how you came up with that one. So good for you. Thoughts on Christopher O'Shaughnessy, is that a real person? That is a real person who
Why
is
would-
25 years old. I don't
Why would it not
understand.
be?
David Phillips is definitely just going through leagues that no one cares about. This is a guy who is playing in Estonia, 25-year-old goaltender playing in Estonia, played one game this year. So I'm going to stop answering David Phillips questions for the
David,
rest
do you
of
have a
the
life,
show.
man? Like, what is this?
Finland used to be a goalie factory. Not sure what happened there either. I mean, there are still some decent Finnish goaltenders, like Joel Blomqvist is playing in the NHL now. Trying to think of other ones. There's a couple.
But that's the biggest new one. But we'll see
Yes.
how well he fares, right? Like he's played a couple games.
Russia's goaltenders are where it's at. You want the Russians nowadays.
I think you kind of always did to an extent.
Yeah,
right?
you did. You did.
It's just now they're a little more elevated. Honestly, I feel like the U.S. has a pretty good goaltending.
Yeah, here
as
and there.
well.
They've
Like,
got some good ones.
I honestly, because the Four Nations face-off's coming up.
It is.
And I honestly feel like the reason I give such a decided edge to the United States over Canada is purely goaltending.
Mm-hmm.
I think probably you could take the fourth best goalie on, like, who's even Canada's best goalie? Like, we're literally talking about Sam Montembeault, bro. Like, what is that? Like
Sam Montembeault?
By comparison.
I don't know, man.
Like, the U.S. has Hellebuck, Demko, Swayman, Ottinger. All right?
Yes.
That's better than anybody we have. Anybody. This is why,
It is.
and this is literally why I don't think Canada will win this.
We'll see. Those jerseys came out, by the way. I saw the jerseys. They're decent, I guess.
I still gotta look at them, but I was honestly intending to have that as a show topic for today, but all the stuff that happened pre-stream.
Yeah, that was a bit of a that was crazy.
Yep. Made that
Whatever. I mean,
window.
there's only 4, and they're kind of nice. The Swedish one is just Sweden's jerseys, so that doesn't matter.
Well, but that's just Sweden, right? That's all they
that's
ever
just
do
how it
anyways.
is.
Just
but they're fine. I think they're fine.
the Cronin, right? Like the 3.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get through this. If the Flames bottom out and finish with a top 5 pick, who do you think they most likely go for? I mean, any one of Hagens, Misa, Martone, or Schaefer that's there, I would be thrilled.
Try and take the next Matthew Tkachuk.
Yeah, like you could. I mean, I think Porter Martone in Calgary would be sick. I think that would be a fascinating experiment. I would love to see a guy. I mean, they just drafted Zane Parrick in the first round. They drafted a ton of skill last year. A guy maybe like a Jackson Smith as another defenseman, big and strong, but also really good skater and really skilled.
You just gave me the answer when you said Zane
Porter
Parekh.
Martone?
No.
Zane Parekh.
No,
Oh,
you
yeah?
said Zane Parekh.
Okay.
They'll keep him with Misa. They'll keep him with Misa.
Oh yeah,
They'll
true.
keep him with Misa.
Unless
I mean,
if they pick 5th overall, Misa, I am almost certain will not be there, but we'll see.
They said in the top 5.
Yeah, in the top 5. Misa would be a great Calgary Flame. I think that would be amazing. That'd be gross. Thoughts on Carter Bear? I mean, we kind of went over him a little bit. He's just a really well-rounded player on the high end of things. I haven't seen him in a little while though, so I'm going to check out him in the near future. The Black Lotus documentary on YouTube is a fantastic watch. I have seen it. That actual whole channel is pretty cool. One of those channels that uploads like once a year, and it's like 45 minutes about something you did not care about, but then you watch it and you care about it. And that was a good one. I don't remember the name of the channel because they upload so infrequently. And then someone mentions, McDavid on a line with McKinnon. I mean, you could do that. Sure. I don't know. Canada's going to be a good team.
They're going to be gross, but the goaltending is not. And that is a problem. And like, I think forwards and defensemen, you can give, if you want to, you can probably give Canada the edge on both, but it's not a strong edge, even if you do. And I don't even know that I would do that necessarily. But let's just hypothetically bias in favor of Canada in the forwards and defense group. Let's just say they have a slightly better group in both those areas. It does not matter because the goaltending is nowhere near up to par. And who knows, maybe Sam Montembeault can get hot. Stop 50 shots almost like he did against the Toronto Maple Leafs on the opening night. But, like, am I banking on that? No. So I think the U.S. is going to win.
Well, we shall see. On that note, I think that's going to be it for today. Thank you for joining us, and apologies again for the technical difficulties, but we had a good time. And thank you again to Rayan for showing up. Thank you very much to the graphic designer of the show. AJ, any final parting thoughts before we take off for the day and I go and listen to my new Gordy Greep album?
Well, I got a message last night from my uncle, and he said to me and my brother, or my brother and I, excuse me, "Hey, boys, I can't sell the tickets. Do you want them?" Yes. So, go Leafs, go. I'm going to be there, baby.
Enjoy the game, man.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Plan the
Have a good one.
parade.
And thank you, everybody. And we'll see you Monday night.